Always been ready. I don't need people that's petty, that weigh on me heavy while I'm being steady. I need a record with Felly. We get it bouncing like Betty's, I feel like I'm Nelly. Don't bring the beef like a deli. It's sleep on that levy, no sleeping on me like I'm Freddy. Chris Breeze, how I do, hit him with the moves. Left hand step back, ballin' like I'm cool. All faith, God's plan, you just gotta choose. God slaps, nothing left to prove. Y'all gotta leave me alone. Lately I've been in my zone. Told them no cap like I fitted, but lately the flows have been straight off the dome. I feel like I'm MVP, like my name Patty Mahomes. If it ain't about money, don't hit on my phone, cause lately I've been in my zone.
Hello, welcome to the Cowboy Show, hosted by Ben Carey and Nick Gronerad, combining expert human opinions with cutting-edge simulation models to help you arrive at the best picks each week. Inside Edge Community. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to College Football Week 6, College Football Saturday. Happy to join you guys with new face here, Evan Bentley of Met Better, of Better Weather. Met Better is his Twitter handle. First time guest, man. How you doing?
Good. How you doing this morning? Excited to be here. Look forward to talking to college football this morning. Yeah, I'm wearing my Buckeye pride, just like Brady Quinn's got to do on the big noon kickoff. You see that this morning?
No, I didn't see it, but I know they had a bet going on, so that's
yeah. He's got his AJ Hawk jersey on. He said he lost a bet to his brother-in-law. So that's
nice.
Pretty good to see.
It's funny. We have Pick 6 in the chat here. Ohio State guy too. So.
All right on. There you go.
People. Yeah, let's go Bucks. We'll get into that one here in a second because there is some injury news that kind of broke. But before we do that, Evan, just kind of tell the people who may not be familiar with you, or I mean, for the most part, people know Better Weather with Yvette coming on, but just give the people just a little bit of your background.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so I'm a meteorologist and a sports bettor. I'm kind of the IT guy who runs the behind the scenes at Better Weather. So when you're having issues with the website or whatever, I'm the one to complain to, and usually try to get on pretty quick. But yeah, so we kind of just put that together between the three of us, and I've been betting for a while, and kind of bringing the sports angle and the weather angle together has kind of been a perfect marriage. So
yeah, no, it's been great, man. I mean, we first met you guys out in Vegas for March Madness last year, but no, Better Weather's been an awesome resource. I love to look at it. I know we were just talking about FCS lines potentially dropping pretty soon here. So if that happens, we can kind of jump into that because, I mean, you know how that market moves, man. It's crazy. It's just kind of like a free-for-all. I mean,
it is.
And that's what happens when these lines, the market comes out, basically some of these games an hour before. So it's pretty interesting, but it's fun to watch in real time. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah, I should probably bring my unabated odds screen up here while we're going to see if anything interesting.
Yeah, we'll have it on screen though.
We're talking. So.
We'll
there you go. Perfect.
Now. Yeah, so we'll be able to go through it. So let's do this before we hop on into each one of the games. I'm gonna actually pull up the Better Weather map here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. We can just kind of talk high level.
Mute my TV so you don't hear that.
Yeah, for sure. For the most part, it doesn't seem like a crazy weather day, but we definitely have looks like a few games pretty impacted. Evan, I was kind of saying it doesn't seem like the craziest weather weekend, but we do have a few spots impacted. I'll let you kind of go through some of those.
Yeah, so there's a big cold front that's moving through. It's kind of the first actual fall like weather that we're getting in the eastern part of the U.S. And right behind that front, it's really, really. Yeah, I'm gonna talk while I turn this off.
No, for sure.
Grab the remote and.
Yeah, he learned that one from you. That's for sure.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, he just wants to be like he saw me with my 3 remotes over here, 3 TV setup, and he's like, "Can I just have one of them, Dad?" So
yeah.
Anyway, yes, there's a big cold front that just like went through the I think it's like in Pennsylvania region right now, and they're getting a bunch of rain up in the Northeast. But behind that front, there's a lot of pretty strong westerly, northwesterly winds. Oh, we saw it last night. If you're watching the Illinois game, the front went through like a couple hours before the game. And the announcers, all they were talking about was the wind. They were just like, oh, they're going into the wind on this punt. There's a crosswind on this, field goal. It was just, that was all they were talking about. And I went and looked at the odds, and it was only like 15 miles per hour, gust 25. So it must have just been something about the orientation of that wind that was really impacting the game there. But we'll probably see similar type winds for a lot of the Great Lakes region. So, see the biggest trigger there is Eastern Michigan. Where Ball State's going up to Eastern Michigan. I think winds up there maybe 20 gusts over 30 miles an hour, so that could be pretty good. And the other thing to note is with all those games there could be like some passing showers, which generally isn't something to impact the total enough. But when you combine it with some strong winds, it might be enough to give a little more favor to the under. So.
For sure.
And then beside that, up in the Northeast, it's interesting because you'll see there isn't a lot of color on the map. The FCS map has a little more color, but there's not a lot going on up there. But that's because the rain is coming with thunderstorms. And so we have a trigger that, if there's thunderstorms going on with the game, we aren't interested in betting it based on the weather, because if there's thunderstorms, they're probably going to delay the game until the weather's better, and then it's not going to have an impact on the game, right? And so some of the question there is figuring out where the games are that won't see any lightning so that they'll still play through, maybe to maybe even heavy rain, and that's going to be the type of thing we got to pick out closer to kickoff. So
yeah, let's actually hop on into the FCS map real quick, because it looks like a few lines are starting to populate. What are the main games that we're kind of looking at that you would more or less like look to kind of fire up an under on?
Yeah, so all those games up there through New Jersey I think are interesting. So like Penn, Princeton, I think are probably the 2 most interesting there, based on because they're going to have some wind and some rain impacts potentially. So I think that the combination of those are kind of ones I have the highest confidence on. You can see like all the New York City area ones, they're green because once again that's like more thunderstorm type activity. There's like looking at the radar right now, there's like some more light to moderate rain that's moving across the like Pennsylvania, Maryland, Northeast Virginia, and that's going to move there through the games.
So Georgetown Penn just came out with an opener of 41.5.
That's pretty low.
Yeah, that is low. And, one thing I'm starting to pick up on, maybe you're seeing this too, Evan, is these FCS lines, and it's kind of to their advantage. Like they're opening a little lower than maybe if it was like on Monday, right? Because they can wait and then they can kind of gauge like the weather. So.
Right.
That's one.
Yeah, it's really interesting they're waiting so late this year because we've been really pretty hesitant to bet on any of them based on the weather, because most of it can be accounted for even by the bookmaker when they're making the line an hour and a half before the game, like you were talking about. So,
which kind of it sucks for us, but
right.
I'm trying to see if there's any others too that are up. This Campbell Hampton one still not on the board, because that's looks like the only red that you guys have for FCS, right?
Yeah, and that's for a little stronger wind, and then also the rain showers with no chance of thunder down there. So, but I was looking at it. I'm actually these are made based on automated forecasts. I'm not based on current trends. I'm not as excited about them actually getting precip down there. So I'm not as excited about that play either. It's only winds are only a little stronger than what we're getting there at Delaware.
Yeah, because it's over like the 15 mile per hour threshold, basically.
Right. Yeah, okay. Exactly.
Okay. Cool. Trying to see this Yale Dartmouth one, still not out. But yeah, I mean the last 2 weeks I think I've been 5-0 on FCS unders. So
there you go.
I'm not playing them blindly, but I'm looking at a few. where I kind of have an idea of some of the teams, and then it's one of those things where it's like, well, if your map lines up with it, and it looks like a good number, I'm firing away. So again, this is over 3 weeks, so it's not like the biggest volume, but I'm just kind of being more selective with those because now I'm just a little cautious that like the one we just talked about opened up at like 41, so it's just like, man, that's already pretty low to begin with. But yeah, kind of like its own little market, the FCS market, on comparable to your standard FBS games that are coming out 5-6 days before. So just something to keep in mind, guys, who for you guys who are watching. So let's get
Here's
on
another
into,
one to look at. There is Northwestern.
Yeah.
They opened at 54, and now we've got Circa at 50. Well, Circa opened at 55.5, and now that's down to 52. Bookmaker's still 53.5, so it's kind of all over still in the market there. But that's one that it's going to be just as windy there. Well, along the lake might even be a little more windy than what we're seeing the rest of the Midwest for the FBS games. So
what did that open at?
Circa opened it at 55.5. I grabbed it at 54 right before the show started. Looks like there's still some 53.5s out there at a couple spots offshore at least. So
yeah. Interesting. That's such a random matchup, Howard Northwestern.
Yeah, how'd that even happen?
I don't know. It feels like that has to be like one of the first times that these two teams have played.
Right.
Yeah, really interesting. Okay. Let me see here. I think we're kind of ready to hop on in to some of the games. So we're going to roll clips for each one of these. And first game is Maryland and Ohio State Buckeyes. Roll the clip.
Daddy's gone. I'll tell you who his daddy is, because if he keeps messing up, the tribal chief is going to be his daddy.
All righty, so we have Maryland, Ohio State, and I don't know if you knew this, Evan, but Ohio State is 8-0 all time against Maryland. So yeah,
I didn't, Maryland, but that's a good stat to know.
Yeah, yet to take down the Buckeyes, and no surprise. I mean, you've had some pretty strong Ohio State teams over the last few years, and Maryland's not really a football program. I'm showing a line here of 17 and a half. Let me get to the total here, because the total is something to monitor too. And I know this is one of the games that you guys had on the map. Looks like it's 55 and a half, 56 at some spots. So Trayvon Henderson was ruled out about 30 minutes ago, and we were talking about that off air. I don't know how much that impacts this game. From what I'm seeing, just from some people I trust on Twitter, they're not too concerned, but the line has moved just a little bit. So what are your thoughts just knowing that information now in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I already liked Maryland. I picked them up at +20 earlier this week. So even though I'm a Buckeye fan, this is one of those years that I'm not sure they've really found their stride yet. It seems like Kyle McCord is just like, he's got the skill, but he's just not quite seeing the field the way he needs to. And I was a little surprised that it's been so slow for him because, with him and Marvin Harrison Jr. having the connection all the way back to high school, I would have thought that would have eased him in a little quicker maybe, but it still seems like the game's moving a little fast for him. And so I don't like him to be able to put up a ton of points. And so against a Maryland team that, even against what I think is probably a really good Ohio State defense this year, they can put up 17 to 20. So, something like a 34-20 final is kind of what I was thinking. Maybe with Trayvon Henderson out, maybe it's more like 31-20, something like that. So, yeah, even at this number, I still like Maryland to cover here.
Yeah, it's been interesting with Ohio State this year. I agree with you. Like, I think this is the first time in a while they don't really have a quarterback I think they fully trust. And they've been playing slower, too, in years prior. So, for me, I'm looking at Ohio State, but I just can't get there. It would have to be Maryland or nothing. What are we kind of expecting for weather in this one? Is it around like 50-mile-per-hour winds?
Yeah, I was just looking at 15 with gusts to 25 miles an hour. So that could cause occasional impacts. But at a big stadium like that, there's also questions about just how impactful it's going to be as well. Because it is a west wind, which is going to be a crosswind there at the Horseshoe. So if you can get some gusts that come down in there, it might impact the field goal kicking, kickoffs, etc. But I wouldn't expect much of an impact.
Yeah, someone asked about like stadium specific impacts. Do you guys have that like modeled with your numbers, or have you not got that granular yet? Like as far as like the.
So I actually did that last night. It's not in this week's, but it will be next week. So
nice. That's going to be super helpful because you do have those stadiums that are just built a little different and that can have, more gusts, more susceptible to random gusts. And, those are the type of things that really affect the game, right? Like, if teams are just having like a steady 15-mile-per-hour wind, I feel like at a certain point they can start to acclimate to it. The quarterbacks start to maybe lessen up or throw a little deeper if they're going into the wind, or harder, I should say. But when you have the gusts, it's just like it could come out of nowhere. So as far as total, Evan, do you have anything in this one? Are you leaning under?
Yeah, I've been under on that one for what is it at now? Because I'm just looking at man. Apparently, I was just hammering this all types of different ways for smaller amounts earlier in the week. I've got 4 different bets. It's ranging between under
56.5.
Okay, because I've got anywhere from under 55.5 all the way up to under 58. So I guess as the number was going up, I just kept grabbing a little more of it as it was going along.
I'm kind of curious. Like it's sitting at 56.5 on FanDuel, and then Caesars has it 55, and then Circa has it at 55 too. But let me look at one thing with Circa because, so this. Oh, let me see here. So I guess it was at 56 just a little bit ago. So I guess they haven't really moved too much with that injury news. Like, I don't think they should, right? But
yeah,
right,
so it moves half a point.
Yeah, but it was at 58 at one point. So coming down a little bit. 56. I might have to get in on that. It doesn't seem like a bad play. And I mean,
it's not like this Ohio State offense has shown that they're going to be going up 40 points every week, right? So.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like that, I think that is something too that I feel okay with, right? Like, you don't have CJ Stroud out there, so I think I'm going to get there.
I will say, I think he can get there as a quarterback, and he potentially, by the end of the season, because it seems like he just needs more and more game reps. Because he's had several, when he actually, opens the field up and throws the ball deep, his throws are right on target. It's just a matter of, I think, getting through his reads and seeing the field a little bit better. So, I just think he needs a little bit more game time experience. But for now, this isn't an explosive offense by any means. And I think, on the other side of the coin, I think this Ohio State defense is really good. Like I would be surprised if Maryland puts up more than 20 points on him, even with Tagovailoa being a top 25 quarterback, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
I still think they're going to struggle to put up more than 20 on Ohio State.
Yeah, and this looks like Caesars just moved down too on that under, so I might have to hop on into that in the next few minutes here. But let's transition.
The whole board's moving, Ben.
I mean, yeah, it's Saturday morning, man. It kind of reminds me too of college basketball. Just Saturday mornings, it's just everything is flashing and lighting up. So, let's get into the next game. I'm gonna play the clip.
That's gonna make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying.
Snap. Good hold. And the kick is blocked. Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history.
Any given Saturday, talking about an upset potential game. And I mean, this isn't the biggest upset. Usually we have games in this spot with, spreads over 10, but wanted to include the Colorado game because everyone wants to know what the opinion is for the Buffs these days. Arizona State at home taking on the Buffs. Showing the spread currently. Let me get to the spread. I think it's at 3.5. Yeah, it looks like it's 3.5. And then the total 58, 59.5. Do you have any opinion on this one, Evan? Did you place any bets in this one?
This is actually the only one on the board that I don't have a bet on at this point. Although I've got something. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it because I've got something in my head that I might be wanting to fire this morning. If you're in agreement, so.
Yeah, I'm a Colorado guy, and I bet them a few times this year. This is one of those spots I don't really want to have any action on, or at least as like a full unit bet. Like maybe I'll just have a fun bet on the Buffs, but it just seems like a pretty good line. Some of these earlier games, I think the odds makers were kind of off on, and I think that was just the uncertainty of Colorado and just all the transfers they brought in. How do we value this team? And I think the market maybe overvalue them at times and then undervalue them. It's kind of gone back and forth, but this Arizona State team offensively is going to struggle. I just don't know if they can go toe-to-toe offensively with Colorado, but at the same time, Colorado still has a defense with a lot of question marks, and there's no Travis Hunter in this game. So there's like cases I can make for both sides, but one thing I kind of wanted to bring up with you is just the weather in this game, because I believe this is going to be the third hottest game that Colorado has ever played in like their program history, which is pretty crazy. And at the same time, it's like, well, both teams are playing in the heat, but maybe Arizona State is a little more acclimated to it, but it's really hard to say. And also Colorado played in a pretty hot atmosphere game. It was against TCU earlier in the season, and they did just fine. Do you guys have any numbers on like weather or anything like that as far as like heat goes?
So on the totals, it doesn't have any statistically significant impact, and I think that's because you're going to see, you might see it on both sides of the ball. Okay, yeah, the defense is at a disadvantage because they're tired, but also the offensive guys aren't as crisp, and if they're hot and tired and worn out, etc. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably why. Because when we looked at it from a totals perspective, there wasn't. We also looked at a warm weather climate teams that are traveling to cooler climate teams, and that was more of a sample size problem. And it was like, all right, well, how cold is too cold? When you're trying to set that threshold.
Yeah.
Once you got like below 32 degrees, then you have like 7 games or something like that. And you're like, well, okay, well, what am I supposed to do with that? So there's probably something there, but nothing that we've really been able to kind of get the numbers to kind of work that part out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of moving parts, because then you need to start to look at, well, like, is one team used to this heat and the other isn't? But then it's like, where do you draw that line? Like a team like Colorado is like, well, would they be acclimated or would they not, right? And then it makes it really difficult, right? Because then you start to just split hairs with the data, and then you almost feel like you're data mining, like to try to get to an answer. And then, the goal obviously is to be predictive. So I've always wondered in situations like this, how it might play out. I just think with Colorado, the only thing I'm worried about is like the depth. If, on defense, if they start to get tired, like in the front 6 or front 7, I should say. But I don't think it's going to play too much of an impact. I'm going to lean Colorado, but it's a fan bet at this point. Like I'm not going to sit here and, tell you that that's going to be the best play in this one. What was the play that you were close to maybe firing up?
Well, you always got to think about the over in a Colorado game, because but they put up 41 against USC, and they should be able to do that against Arizona State too, right? And then they're with their it's not like Colorado's defense is super strong either. Now some of that's probably skewed by the fact that they're playing teams like USC and giving up a ton of points to really good offenses, but at the same time, if what are we at? We're at like 58.5, right? So, if they put up 40 again, all it takes is them giving up 20 for the over to hit. I don't think that's unreasonable to see happen. I very easily see this as a, 42-31 final or something like that, where it soars over. So I was kind of leaning that direction. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I don't hate it. Offensively, like Colorado's cooking, and I think they have been playing at a pretty high pace. So it just kind of comes down to like what type of game we can expect. Like if Arizona State wants to play like, hey, we're going to try to take advantage of Colorado's lackluster defense, and it kind of turns into a shootout setting, this is going to fly over. But if Arizona State like gets out to a lead and maybe they try to control clock a little bit, it could be a different type of game. But I think I lean towards a game where there are a lot of points and it's fast scoring, fast pace. So I would have to lean with the over 2 as well.
Maybe I'll keep watching that here through the afternoon, and maybe that'll be last minute fire if I still like it.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it too a little bit more and kind of see if you get any late steam or whatever. Yeah, because it's sitting at 58.5 right now. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens here in the next few hours. Alrighty, let's transition to the next game. This is the trench warfare category. All right, trench warfare. We're talking about a game with a lower total, and this is not the lowest total on the day, but it's a lower total. I think it's sitting at 46 at the moment. Let's pull it up here on the unabated odd screen. 45.5 at FanDuel, 46 at Circa. Spread is 19.5 for Michigan on the road. And Michigan, I will say, they look really impressive against Nebraska. Granted, it's Nebraska, but I mean that game from the start was it was over for Nebraska. I don't really think they stood a chance in that one. Do you have any thoughts on this one? And did you fire up any bets?
I did, yeah. I'm on both Michigan and let me see here. I've got action on Michigan and the under in this one. We've got Michigan anywhere between 18 and 19.5. I've got them here. I mean, at this point, Michigan's kind of proven that they've got a really good defense. They haven't given up more than 7 points in a game, or at least more than they haven't given up double digits in any game this season, right?
Yeah.
So why should we think this week's any different?
I agree. And look, this Minnesota team offensively, they don't have a lot of firepower. And years prior, I don't know if they did, but at least they could move the ball and score. And I just feel like I don't know how they're going to put up points, man.
Exactly. And so if if so far Michigan hasn't been able to give up more than 10 points in a game, it's not going to happen this week. And so then, your only question is, can Michigan put up more than, let's say, 28 points? Can they put up more than 28? I mean, they have pretty much every week. Why should we think it pains me to say as a Buckeye fan, but this Michigan team might be really, really good this year. I mean, they might be kind of the sliding under the radar elite team that we kind of don't think is actually out there this season. It might be them. Now, hopefully come into November, we can put them back in their place. But, as a Buckeye fan, that does scare me.
Yeah, so I kind of have a narrative with this game, and I really feel like Minnesota with PJ Fleck, I think going into it, he knows the only way they can really win this is if they control the clock. Like if it turns into a game where Michigan does that, they're just going to drive it down the field, convert on third downs, just really efficient offensive production. And I think if Minnesota can get first downs and just slow it down, this game is going to go under. And I think the clock is just going to start to really tick, tick, tick. And, you'll look at it and you'll be like, oh man, we're like midway second quarter and, it's 7-0 or whatever. I like the under a lot. And I think for me, that's going to be something that I think PJ Fleck does try to do. Watch for that. See if he starts to, let the clock tick down to like 5 on the play clock and then, snap the ball. If Michigan does get off to like a pretty early lead really quickly, like 14-0, we'll see what happens because Michigan themselves, like they basically blew the under themselves, right? Yesterday or last week.
Yeah, they put up 45. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Nebraska did kind of what I expected them to do. And I thought they would have more stops. But Michigan, they had backups in and they were moving the ball. So obviously that's something to be worried about, but all things considered, I'm on the under here. I got it at 47, but I think at 46, I think it's a good look. I'd play it down to 45.5 actually. So I think this is going to be a 35-10 game. That's my prediction.
So get it by the hook.
Get it by the hook.
45.5. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But you do think that someone's going to put up 10 points for the first time in the year, huh?
It might be one of those things where they get a field goal like late in the second half, and it's like, wow, yeah, we did it, right? That's the moral victory of the day, right there.
Right. Well, and that I think I heard this morning. I think on game day they said something like it'd be the first time that through 6 weeks someone has held every opponent to less than 10 points since like the 70s with a Nebraska team that went on to win the national title or something like that. I was half listening while I was making pancakes, so that might not be exactly right, but there's some type of comparison going on there with how good their defense has been this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been that good. Like, Nebraska, I would say, is a subpar offensive team, but they still can move the ball. I mean, against Illinois, they had some success last night, but yeah, it just looked like a varsity JV type matchup, man. Like they could not move the ball at all. So see if Minnesota can get some play, move the ball and get some points. But for us, I mean, if we're on the under, we're fine if Michigan shuts them out. That's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely well, I mean, I really, this is probably my favorite one of the day, both sides of it. Heck, if you've got a book that'll let you parlay or get a correlated parlay on it. Well, actually, I guess it would be an uncorrelated parlay, really, a Michigan cover and the under.
Yeah, but look, you could probably get some decent odds then. If
it's actually since it's uncorrelated, you might actually be able to find some books that'll let you take it because I really like both of those on this one here. But.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's just I just don't know how Minnesota's going to put up points, but we'll see. PJ Fleck has definitely done crazier in his day, but at the end of the day, it's like the talent disparity. It's going to be on full display in this one. Alrighty, let's transition, get into the next category, air raid.
Easy pickings, what do you say?
Negative, Jigsaw 2. Our orders are to recon and report back.
Come on, Skip, it'll be a turkey shoot.
Let's do it, Skipper.
Yeah, come on.
All right, let's go in for a closer look.
If you catch me at the border, I got visas in my name. If you come around here,
Alrighty, air raid, we're talking about a game with a higher total. We're looking at the Utah State, Colorado State game. This is funny because these two teams have played, I think, every year the last few years, and this is for sure the highest total between the two. And Colorado State usually is a team that does not flirt with these higher totals, and this is probably the best offensive team they've had over the last 5 years. Granted, that's not saying a lot because they've had some really bad offensive teams. Showing a spread at 2.5, 1.5 at some spots. Circa actually has it up at 3 for Colorado State, so -3 on the road. Evan, do you have anything in this one?
I was just looking when I was looking through because I don't know too much about these teams, but I was looking through it last night. Is it true that Utah State has both a bottom third passing defense and like a bottom third rushing defense?
Yeah, Utah State, they've really struggled getting recruits. It's kind of been a issue for them because I mean their head coach, space his name off the top of my head. Let me pull it up here. Okay, Blake Anderson. There you go. He has a really cool story. Like he's a guy I admire, and I think he's a solid coach. But they just can't get enough talent to come there. So yeah, the defense has really struggled, and it's been on full display this year. They've really struggled to stop teams when they're on defense. So this total, though, Evan, it was like 64.5, and it's been going down. And I actually jumped in on the under at 64.5. And one of the reasons why is because, you mentioned Utah State and their defense, and I totally agree. But I think Colorado State is almost like at the peak of their offense and like what we've seen out of them. They've had some really good games. They played some iffy defenses like Colorado. They've really dominated with the passing game with like Holker, their tight end, and then Horton, who is a guy who's probably going to be playing on Sundays. And I just feel like at the market, when it hit 64, it was almost like I'm just, almost kind of shorting. I just don't see Colorado State like putting up a 35 spot in this game. I think it's going to be one of those games where, Utah State, like their defense is going to look bad, like we mentioned, but they get stops when need be, and it's a higher total. I mean, 60, 62 for a Colorado State team, that's pretty high. So I'm leaning under, but it is scary because Utah State could just have another one of those piss poor performances defensively and just, it's dead from the start. So that's kind of my opinion on this one.
Well, I'm the sucker who's stuck with an over 63.5 ticket right now. So we're on the opposite side of this one, and hopefully we don't get middled with a 63 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, but so you're over 63.5.
Yeah, I took that on Wednesday morning. Yeah, I got over 63.5. And yeah, obviously, market has gone against me there.
I mean, if we land at 64, we both win. So
hey, there possible. You go.
It's possible. Well,
so you got the under 64?
Yeah, under 64.
Nice.
If it makes you feel any better, though, Brad Powers said he leaned under 64 back in, like, is it Tuesday, I think? So I don't know. We'll see. The market on this one has been kind of weird. I wasn't sure, like, which way it was going to go, but I can see both sides of the extreme here. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if, like, this flies over because, look, Utah State gave up 45 to James Madison, gave up 33 to Connecticut team, and then 39 to Air Force. So, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, if Colorado State just comes out like they have been playing, I mean, it could fly over. So, we'll see. And I think this one's at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, so it's a kind of a later game. No weather, I think, in this one, right? I think we're good.
Yeah, clear weather there for that one.
Cool. Yeah, Colorado State, actually, Evan, is a team that I got their over win total at 3.5. So I think it's looking pretty good. This would be one that, if they win, I'm feeling really good about because they have some winnable games on the schedule coming up. But, it's a team that looks pretty good, and they almost beat Colorado a few weeks back. So, all right, let's get into the next category.
These people don't give a fuck.
Yes, I can. Here it comes again.
Go Bulldogs!
Yale Bulldogs.
Oh, wow.
Not so fast, midget. Not so fast.
Midget. It's obvious I look good to Kuna.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
So you're picking West Virginia. You're going to go with the home team?
Have you seen that clip before of Corso with the little kid?
No, that was great.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think I was watching live when that happened, and I was like, did that really just happen?
Did you just really call that kid a midget?
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. So we're talking about the college game day, game of the day, and of course that's Oklahoma, Texas, the Red River rivalry. They used to call it the shootout, but changed the name. So you live in Oklahoma, right? So you're out there.
I'm sitting right here in Norman right now. So
yeah,
Boomer Sooner.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on just like you have friends who are big Sooner fans, I'm sure, and like people at work. Like, what are their expectations? Are they feeling confident with this game, or are they like a little nervous, being like a little bit of a dog in the spot?
It's kind of funny because I can have the more like candid conversations because when it's like your own team. And you've been burned so many times, you're just like, well, I don't know how good this team is. I've been talking with my coworkers on, like, dude, this team might be really, really good. Like, it's crazy to say about a team that, goes 500 last season and loses 49-0 against Texas to then say the next year they could be a national championship contender. But like, and that might be a little bit of a stretch. I think this is the game you got to see it. If Oklahoma can beat Texas, then they are in the conversation for being, a playoff team and playoff contender, and even potentially a national title team, because the defense this season has grown so much from what they were last season. So last year, the biggest complaint that all the Sooner fans here had was they could not tackle in the open field. If you watch the games, they'd go out there, every single time the defender would just bounce off of him and they'd run for another 10 to 15 yards. But here this season, I mean, watching these games, you expect that to happen, and then you go out and the guy actually makes a tackle for a 3-yard loss, and it's just like it happens time and time again. So I think you're seeing the Brent Venables defense that is actually stepping up, and then they somehow are still keeping the offensive prowess that they built under Lincoln Riley. And Dylan Gabriel looks really good this season. I mean, it's last year he looked pretty good. This year he looks like really good. So now, the big question is they haven't played anyone. So I guess we'll get to see today. Can they put both those pieces together? And I think it's possible. But here I'll say what my first and this will be somewhat narrative driven, but I think my personal emotional based bet of the day is going to be Oklahoma first quarter, because they come out hot every game. They do it so many times. I went to the last year. Went to the Oklahoma State game. They scored 28 points before my wife and I arrived because we had to put the baby down. And then we showed up at the end of the first quarter. It was 28-0. We got to see them score nothing for the rest of the game, right?
Gosh.
So it's a precedent for them. They like to score a bunch of points in the first quarter. I think they're going to do it here. I think Texas is going to come in a little bit complacent after winning 49-0 last year and be like, oh, here we go. We get to go, up to Arlington and, show them who's boss again or whatever. And so I think it's a spot where Texas might come out a little flat and Oklahoma comes out on fire because they feel good and confident about themselves this year. And they don't have the kind of, they're trying to get the monkey off their back. And I think they're going to do it really quick. I wouldn't surprise me if they go up 17-0 in the first quarter, something like that, 17-3 to start the game off here. So I'm going to be looking first quarter cover for the Sooners.
Yeah, and that's been the problem with Oklahoma over the years, right? Like their defense. Like they've had prolific offenses. They've had, Hurts, Mayfield, Murray, all these guys, and they can always put up points, and then it's just the defense. Like if the offense just has even an okay type game, then they're in trouble. So I totally agree with you there. Having said that, though, like Texas is kind of in the same boat with this game, right? Like if they win this, whoever wins this game is probably in a pretty comfortable position for the most part as far as like the playoff outlook goes. Like, of course, there's a lot that can happen with the season, and there'll be some other tough spots, but like this is a huge game with playoff implications, and I mean that's why it's the college game of the day. Do you have any thoughts on this total? Because I've always played this total in the past, and I've had some good success. Like a few years, I think I was on the under, and then one year when it was like close to 80, I think I played the over, and that game I think flew over, which was crazy. It was that one game where it was like I think it was like 50 to something. It was just back and forth. Any thoughts on this? Like, can you get to an under? Because of course that's gonna kind of feel like the sharper play.
Yeah, well, I guess I thought so earlier this week because I'm just looking at my slips. I've gotten under 61.5 from Monday, or sorry, under 59 from Monday, and now it's up to 61.5. So I guess the sharp money went against me there. But I guess maybe at this point, is there room on the under?
There could be. I think the thing for me is like Texas's defense. If they really just come out and play good, like the front four for them is pretty stout. If they can cause fits, it could be one of those spots where the under doesn't or the total doesn't get over. But then it's almost like do you feel like Texas is the play at that point? I don't know. This is a tough game for me to handicap. Like I don't have a lot of conviction on this one.
And I will say, even with my first quarter cover for the Sooners, I'm not confident in Sooners for the full game side on it. I think where is it? Is it still like around 5.5, something like that?
Yeah, it looks like it's 5. Circa has it at 4.
Interesting. So Circa lean would say.
Yeah.
So Circa's leading the market down.
Going up. It is going up a little bit. 61.5. I'm trying to think of like 61. It's just like a final score. 35-28, but now that goes over. 31-28. That would go under. I might try to get in live on this one. just kind of like feel it out a little bit, see how the defenses are looking. Really comes down to Quinn Ewers, man. I know a lot of Oklahoma people don't think he's all that. I think some Texas people may still have some like quiet reservations like on how good he actually is. But if he plays well, I think Texas can get this done. So for me, I'm going to lean. What am I going to do? I'll lean under. That's going to be my lean. I don't have anything in this one, but I'll lean with the under in this one. All right, let's get into the last category here. It's going to be our best bets.
This will be the same thing. McDonald will not even hand it off.
Found a little alley.
He should go down. He shouldn't go down. He should go down.
He's going to the house. Touchdown to Falcons.
Marshawn Lynch.
Alrighty, so time for our best bets of the slate today. Evan, I'll start it off with you.
Well, I talked about my Michigan that I liked both under and Michigan on the side there. But one that just popped up this morning, are any of those 13 still around for Rutgers?
Let's pull it up here.
Because I was waiting on that one all week and just keeping an eye on it because I want to make sure I didn't miss out on the 13. But
yeah, there's still 13s at like DraftKings, Circa, Pinnacle. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Rutgers plus 13 there. We also have at least a little bit of wind impact. It's not going to be a huge amount, but maybe just enough that if if it's one extra field goal missed or something like that for Wisconsin, that can help keep this thing within 2 touchdowns. I really like the Rutgers plus 13. I've been waiting on it all week. Finally got it done this morning, and since the number's still there, let's go with that one.
I like it. I fired it up just a few minutes before we went live, so I'll be sweating that one out with you.
Right on. There you go. What about you?
That's a good question. I have a few. I don't have one that really like sticks out as much as maybe some other weeks, but I think I'm going to lean with Fresno State minus 5.5. Let me pull this up because I just want to see where it's at. So this one has been really interesting because it opened up at 7 at Circa, and then it was bought down pretty quickly. Take some of those moves with a grain of salt just because they're lower limits. But Bookmaker has it at 5.5, and traditionally I don't like to give out like a best bet or something that's kind of going against maybe some of the stronger market makers. But for me, I think this Wyoming team is like borderline fraudulent. They've had 2 wins that have been, pretty fluky. They had the block field goal. That the Texas Tech game was really weird. I feel like if they played that game 100 times, they lose probably 80% of them, maybe even 90. It just seemed like a game that they got really lucky. And I don't want to take anything away from them, but I just don't think they're that good. And I think Fresno State is that good. 5.5. It's not really anything key. You can get it 6 still at a few shops. And I think this line should be 7, to be honest, where Circa opened it up at. And from listening to, I think Brad Powers mentioned it, he said that this one is kind of going back and forth. Like sharps are on both sides. There's resistance, and if I came into it with a conviction, and it's a game like that, I'm okay with firing it up. So yeah, give me the Bulldogs minus 5.5, minus 6 for my best bet.
Right on. So I'm on the same side as you there. I got a -5 earlier in the week and a -6, so averaged out to 5.5. So I'm still liking it at this number as well.
Yeah, I swear, if Wyoming has some crazy shit happen again and they get some luck their way out,
luckiest team in football.
Yeah, they're turning into the Minnesota Vikings of last year, man. I think it was the first ever game where we saw a blocked field goal return for a touchdown to put a team up in 20 years, and first time that's happened to App State, which is funny because they were the ones who, against Michigan a few years back, they had the blocked field goal. I thought that was kind of ironic. Sam said,
One of the best afternoons of my life.
Oh yeah, because you're a Buckeye fan. So, what was the Wisconsin play? That was Rutgers plus 13. Rutgers.
Yeah, I'm actually going to add a little bit on the under there on that Rutgers game as well. I had a half a unit on it earlier in the week, but I was just looking at the weather this morning. Could be gusting to 25 or so there, so I might add another half unit on that too if I could still get to the 44.
Is it going to be throughout the day, or do you think like the winds may be stronger in the first maybe hour and a half of the game?
So yeah, for a lot of these, it's the strongest during the afternoon hours. So like noon to 4 today is probably when the strongest winds are going to be. The stuff's really going to start to die off for all the games really once we go into the evening slate.
So noon Eastern.
Right. Yeah. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
That would be the start of the game.
Yeah.
So you think the full game is still a good look versus like trying to play something first half?
Yeah. Let me. Now that you say that, let me bring up and make sure.
I was curious because that was something that I was like just starting to look at a little more. Like you obviously you don't want to start overthinking it, right? But if it does make sense, where like, if we think the wind is going to die down like around halftime, maybe that's a look.
Yeah, so it's gusting 20 there right now, and looks like it's forecast peak wind. It's really the same winds now through 3 p.m. Central before it starts to die off. So that's really going to last most of the game there in that one. So I don't think there's a half lean in that. But your logic is sound. I actually did that last week with the Air Force game because that one, the winds were going to be – it was like an evening game. And the winds are going to be strong at the beginning. Actually, one of the guys who's a member of our Better Weather team was out there at the game, and he sent a video to us of like, flags that were poles that were just like bent over. And so like, we were like, all right, we feel really good about the under first half, but then by the second half, the winds might be calm. And I think they just about were. So that's a place where we played it. Now, neither one of them hit in the first half or the full game. But yeah, I think there are spots where you should be looking that direction, especially when, there's changing wind conditions or evening games where it's windier during the day and it starts to calm off by later in the day. So
yeah. Something I'm going to start to just watch for a little bit more. Let's transition real quick back to FCS. I'm curious what we're seeing here. I always forget. I know on Unabated there's a way that you can filter. Man, the board is going crazy. You can filter by FCS. I think I go to settings here. I believe they should be up. I mean, they're not up yet. It's like, what are we doing? Hold on. Actually, let's just do this. So what was that one that it was Campbell Hampton? Let's see what's going on there. I'm going to pull it up on the Unabated screen. I have to go. There it is. I'm just going to go straight FCS.
$66. Did they really open that 66.5? 66?
Yeah, let's see if it opened just like 10 minutes ago.
All right, let me take a look. Maybe we can get a live.
It's only on Caesars
in here,
but I'm probably down.
Offshore. Bookmakers got it offshore, so it should start filling it elsewhere as well.
What does Bookmaker have it at?
66, and I see Bet Online's got it 66.5. So it's filtering in.
I mean, I'd be shocked if it moves up, man. I mean,
that's a lot.
Yeah. Let's see here. Interesting that like Caesars has it at least up here first, but I would assume that. Let's see. I mean, Bookmaker now are they the first ones to drop the numbers for FCS, or does it depend?
That's where I've been seeing it. I think the first week Circa opened it up first, but last couple weeks I think it's been Bookmaker around this. Man, I thought it was usually even earlier than this. This is really late. But.
Yeah, J Champ, we are because the lines just came out. So let me see here. I'm gonna go to Caesars real quick. Wait, what time is that game at? Let's go back to it. I think that's a little later in the day, right? Well, I guess it's at noon Mountain Time, so 2 Eastern.
2 Eastern, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm probably going to put a unit on it. And what was the exact forecast for that game?
Winds like 16, gusts 25 to 30. And then they also, I just looked at radar, there's a band of showers that's going to be coming through. So it's not like one of these games that's going to be wet the whole game and rainy and all that, but there'll be some passing showers. So that combined with the wind, that's worth a couple of points to the under. So.
Also, I saw the ULL game had like a red flag warning. Is that just like a super gusty type of weather forecast?
So a red flag warning is for fire weather conditions. So it means that there's low relative humidity and strong enough winds that they're worried about wildfire growth.
Okay, so that's kind
but it's kind of a proxy for the impact, because if the wind is strong enough to cause rapid wildfire spread, it's probably strong enough to at least have some minor impact on a football game. So
yeah, I saw that was on the forecast. You have the under in that too, right?
Yeah, that one down there near the coast, it looks like it could be pretty gusty. It's that same big cold front, the northerly winds behind it. That's kind of the sweet spot for it based on the time of day. The other games down in that area, it's not quite there are like a lot of evening games, like Southern Miss, Monroe. Those are evening games, so the wind's going to die down by then. But Louisiana being earlier at the 3:30 Eastern, that being still mid-afternoon, should be a little stronger winds there associated with it. And looks like that one opened to 67, is down to 66.5. Is it still? Let's see, Louisiana.
It's been doing some weird, like that one. I think actually opened at like 65, and it was really odd because it went up, and then it came back down. I think it went all the way up to like 68, and then it maybe even 69, and it dropped down. It was kind of a weird game there, because you would think like with the forecast, but at the same time, I think ULL plays pretty fast.
Yeah, I see 68.5 at Circa in the open. That got bet down to 66.5, and then by Tuesday it was all the way up to 70.
Yeah,
and then and then now it settled down back to like 67.5. So yeah, interesting.
Also, I'm trying to find that Hampton game on Caesars, but I'm not actually seeing it. I wonder if they took it down. Weird. FCS, man, it's a different market, that's for sure. Anything else you have action on today? I mean, you have a few other under spots, right?
Yeah. I've got unders for weather stuff on all the Ohio Valley stuff. Probably Miami, Ohio. I really like that under. Eastern Michigan. But a lot of those in Akron, but a lot of those have already responded. Like Akron got at 44 and it's down to I think 42 now. Same with like Eastern Michigan got at 43.5. I think that one's down to 42 as well. The one that's interesting is Buffalo looked like it was going to be really bad earlier in the week, but it's not actually going to be nearly as windy there. So I think that one had gone from like 58.5 down to like 52. I don't know if it started to come back up at all. I'm not generally the type of person who will play back on stuff when it changes like that. I kind of just, take my CLV and run. But if you don't like the exposure on the under for that and you already do have something, the weather impacts look a lot less there now. I think on our map, it might only just be a low impact. Oh, I guess it came back up to moderate, but it's not looking nearly as impactful as it was earlier in the week.
It's like 10 miles per hour.
Well, forecast just came up. It's like 16, so 15 gusts 25 or whatever. But if a lot of that move has come from the weather, well, and I guess did it get down to 51? So maybe it already has come back up a little bit. It's on the forecast being not as bad, because earlier this week it was looking like it was gonna be like 20 gusts 35 or something like that. And maybe, lake effect rain showers off the lake. So it's definitely improved since then. Yeah, see, Circa bottomed at 51 yesterday.
Is that Buffalo? That's Buffalo and Central Michigan, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, and then it settled back up to 53. So that's probably about right now. If some of that move was from the weather that took it down to 51, giving a couple of points of it back based on where it is now is probably right. So
Yeah, I'm trying to find this damn Hampton game, man. I think sometimes like Unabated will have it up, and then if they take it down, it doesn't like reflect instantaneously. But you said,
yeah, I'm not having any success either because I saw it on the Unabated odds screen at Bookmaker, but then I sent it along to one of my buddies to see if he could bet it for me, and he said it's not available enough places. So
do you see?
we might have to keep it on our radar.
Does Bookmaker have it live right now? I know it shows.
Look here.
It shows on Unabated, but
yeah, let's see if it's actually there.
And Scratch, that's Evan's kid. My kid, he not yet, but he'll get there. But he's just crying right now, so that's what he does.
Yeah, mine just dropped a car down the stairs. That's what we heard in the background. This is remote control car falling down the stairs. So
probably
at least it's not him. So.
Yeah, probably a pretty typical Saturday morning there, huh?
Oh, it is. It's absolute chaos, but I love every minute of it. Yeah. So yeah, Wes having a good girls' weekend in Austin. So I'm Mr. Mom this weekend. So doing it all.
Did she drive?
Yeah, she just drove down there.
How far is that from Norman?
Like 5.5 hours. Yeah, it's not too bad.
I always like Texas, man. Like I'm always like, can you drive? Because some cities are just like so spread out, right? It's you almost could fly, but then there's a few cities that are closer, and then
it looks like Hampton is on Bookmaker at 66 right now.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure they're only taking $250 a pop or something like that, but yeah, maybe wait for that to pop up some more places and see if we can grab a piece of it.
Yeah, that's because some of these, man, we've seen it. They'll move like 6-7 points in like an hour. It's crazy. Alrighty, Evan, appreciate you having us or having you join us. Better weather, of course, guys. Most of our followers are following you guys, but do you post stuff from your personal account too that often, or is it more the
not that often? Yeah, pretty rare. Most of the time it's coming from there, but yeah.
Cool. Yeah, everyone make sure to be following Better Weather. Let me just drop the link real quick here in the chat. Give me 1 second. Best of luck to your Buckeyes too. That's coming up. Except you want the cover for Maryland, but the win for Ohio State. Basically, right?
It's always a tough place to be, when I don't really bet with my heart. I bet based on the numbers, and when the numbers are opposite the side I want to win, it's kind of an awkward rooting situation where you're like, all right, just score one more touchdown and then lay down,
Yeah, exactly. No, that always makes it difficult. It's like a little bit of an emotional hedge, but then it's like, am I asking for too much, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I got the Buckeyes and the Sooners on at the same time, so I'll have to make some lunch, bring it up here, and use the multi-TV setup for the boys' lunch today.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and then the last thing, guys, shout out Unabated for sponsoring the stream today. Use promo code CW, 5% off your monthly subscription. Evan uses Unabated, of course. I use Unabated, and now that some others in the market, I won't say the name, but you can figure it out. Those who are starting to charge, I think Unabated, price-wise, probably the best value for an odd screen. So, Evan, I preached to everyone about odd screens, man. Like, I haven't really met a successful bettor who doesn't have, like, a pretty dedicated odd screen. Would you say that's a pretty accurate statement?
Oh, for sure. And I think even some of the stuff you have access to on the Unabated free version, or even like the lower tier stuff or whatever, is still, most of what you're going to need for most people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you do have like the Unabated line and things like that, but yeah, just like having some compass, like some reference point of like where the numbers are at, like that goes such a long way. So we're going to call the stream, guys. Best of luck today with all the bets. Evan, thanks once again. And
so he's got his Oklahoma shirt on. So Jamie, Boomer.
There we go. I might have to take the Sooners now. That was good.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. All right, man. We'll see you later.
All right.